Kosovo, located in the Western Balkans, is the biggest per capita recipient of EU assistance in the whole world. It has the lowest GDP per capita in Europe and faces major challenges, notably poverty and crime. The collapse of the rule of law in the 1990s created a vacuum which has been exploited by organised crime from both within and outside Kosovo, which is a matter of serious concern for the EU. Since 2008, the EU has also launched its largest ever crisis management operation in Kosovo, known as EULEX, whose central aim is to help strengthen the rule of law, specifically in the police, the judiciary and customs. It does so through capacity building and strengthening actions, as well as through executive functions like the investigation and prosecution of serious crime. Kosovo benefits from financial assistance from the Instrument for Pre-Accession Assistance and is treated by the European Commission as a potential candidate for the purposes of receiving this assistance. EU assistance to the rule of law through the Instrument for Pre-Accession Assistance and EULEX totalled approximately €1.2 billion. The European Court of Auditors, based in Luxembourg, is the EU's external auditor. For this audit, it sought to determine whether the EU assistance to the rule of law in Kosovo has been effective. That is to say, whether this assistance has achieved its intended results and what its impact has been on overall progress in the rule of law. In addition, it sought to identify where improvements in the management and coordination of EU assistance could lead to greater effectiveness of assistance.
Our key finding was that the European Union's assistance to the rule of law in Kosovo has not been as effective as we would have hoped, because the levels of crime and corruption in the country remain high. Partly that is the responsibility of the Kosovo authorities that do not devote sufficient attention to strengthening the rule of law. Partly it is because the European Union must do a better job in providing assistance.
The contribution to building the capacity of the Kosovo police has been modest, and little progress has been made in the fight against organised crime. Kosovo's limited capacity to protect key witnesses in high-profile cases and the difficulties in relocating witnesses abroad are important shortcomings. The court concludes that judicial sector assistance has been useful, but the judiciary continues to suffer from political interference, inefficiency and a lack of transparency. While there has been some progress in legal reform, the actual implementation and enforcement of laws remains a major problem. In addition, the huge backlog of cases limits confidence in and recourse to justice. The most progress was made in the area of customs, where the assistance has largely achieved its capacity building objective. There have been limited results in tackling corruption, which continues to prevail in many areas. The complex and fragmented institutional framework to fight corruption actually served to increase the risk of corruption. Almost no progress was achieved in establishing the rule of law in the north of Kosovo.
The mixed results of European Union assistance to Kosovo, I think, are explained by probably four factors. The fact that Kosovo had a very complicated and violent history plays a major role, but also its authorities devote not sufficient political priority to the rule of law. EU member states are divided about the recognition of Kosovo as a state, which means that the incentive of EU membership to reform the rule of law in Kosovo is not as strong as it is elsewhere on the Balkans. And last but not least, the European Union simply needs to manage its projects better. If we want to make crisis management more effective, what is also important is to strengthen future peacekeeping missions by having member states commit more people, the right people, for longer periods of time.
Among the Court's recommendations is that the European External Action Service and the Commission should make better use of policy dialogue and priority conditions. The possibility of visa liberalisation may act as an incentive to improve the rule of law in Kosovo. However, the EU has set 95 requirements for the visa liberalisation, which risks undermining the incentive effect. The Court also recommends that EU support for Kosovo be linked to concrete benchmarks and take into account EU internal security objectives.
The Court looked first at individual projects, individual M&A actions, but also, and more relevant, we also look at how the sector was doing, how the progress was changing or impacting the sector.
The Court used a number of methods in carrying out its work. Documentary and literature reviews were performed, interviews were conducted with the Commission, the European External Action Service and Council staff, high-level political and administrative authorities, representatives of the international community in Kosovo, meetings with civil society and also the use of an expert panel.